Hey guys, my name's Olivia and this is my first YouTube video. So on my channel, things that you will hopefully see is me and my friends talking about certain topics. So it would be from racism to peer pressure to abuse, mental and physical, to mental health issues, to rape, to sexual misconduct in the workplace. It would be loads of those sort of topics that I feel like in today's society we talk about, but it kind of is just like a little passing conversation. So with that being said, the first video I have asked my friends to speak on racism. I've asked them to speak on their own personal beliefs, feelings, thoughts, opinions on how it has impacted them or how it may not have affected them personally, but someone they know and care about. And I feel like racism is a topic that still needs to be discussed. It's not gonna go away. And I'm hoping within time people educate themselves on it, because I've found a lot of people say, oh, I understand racism or I understand the Black Lives Matter movement, but if there's a but in the sentence, you're not really understanding it. There should be no but. It should be, if you understand it, you understand it. So I do feel some people need to be educated on it, and it's a topic that I will never get tired of speaking on, as a Black woman especially. So with that being said, it is going to be a video piece on me and my friends' opinions. So I hope you guys enjoy it, and please like, comment and subscribe on my channel. And yeah, let's get started. So racism for me is something I have been educated on. My family have educated me on it from when I was young, and it is something that I have been affected on. I have gone to job interviews and I haven't got it because of the colour of my skin. And I know some people will say, how do you know that? You just know in your hearts of hearts when you meet someone if they're genuinely racist. You just know from the vibe, from how they treat you. I've gone to job interviews, and for me, whenever I've gone to job interviews, it's polite to shake someone's hand. I've been turned down a couple times. They didn't want to shake my hand. And it's the way they look at you. It is a bit blindsiding when professional people don't act professional. I just want to make one thing really clear. With us, with Black people, with different races, with different religions, we should not be judged on our skin color or our religion to get us a job. If our CV is showing you we can do everything we can do, it shouldn't be a reason for us not to get the job. We are clearly qualified. And I have been turned down for jobs that I am qualified for, if not more qualified, and I haven't got it. So it's really sad that racism still exists so strongly. We all know that it's been going on a hell of a lot in America, and there needs to be a change over there for sure, because you should not be killed because of the colour of your skin. Period, point blank. That is disgusting, and it should not still be happening. So America does need to change. But with that being said, I've seen people think that, you know, the UK is amazing to live here and there's no racism here and, you know, it doesn't happen here. It does happen. The UK is not innocent. It may be better than America, but we are not innocent. And just because we've seen a lot of the things social media has awoken us to online, I just want everyone to deep it and think, what haven't you seen? What hasn't been recorded? Because there's not always a camera available. So it needs to be sorted, and it does need to change here, because it happens here. Like, I've faced it. I've also been called the N-word. You know, it's not. And I think when I got called that, it stung, but also in the same way I was so taken aback by it, because it was on a night out. And I was so taken aback by it. And I was just like, hold on. And the thing is, now I look at it and it's like, it doesn't make me look like an idiot, or it doesn't make me look disgusting. It makes you look disgusting for the fact that you still think those words are appropriate to use, and you think that it's okay, and it's not gonna hurt me. Like, it's not gonna hurt me how you want it to hurt me. So there's loads of racism still in the UK, and you know, it does need to change, and the system needs to help it change, because ideally it does go down to the system. You know, when you have the stereotype of a black person, it's what you get judged on. You have the stereotype of a black person, and that is what you are solely judged on. And it's ridiculous, because you know, the best way to say it, in my opinion, is crime does not have a colour, and it feels like society or the system has made it have a colour, predominantly black, and there are white people that do crimes too. It's not black people only. So it's just a load of crap when you think about it. I do just think enough is enough, and something needs to change. The justice system need to change, and they need to help. It's just crazy. I want it to change for the new generation, our generation, the old generation. I'm hoping that racism will there'll come a time where you're not judged solely because of the colour of your skin.
Okay, so the topic we've been given today is racism. Boy, I don't know. How do you not feel about racism? Because for me, yeah, it's just a techie one.
Tired.
It's long.
Exhausted.
It's long.
I feel
Like, do you ever think racism will change? Like, or racism will
not in our lifetime.
Oh no! See, I want to be hopeful in it, but
No,
from when you can have a president like Donald Trump, still,
Yeah.
then no.
There's being hurtful, and then there's being
Truth.
I don't think I will. I don't think my kids will. Maybe my grandchildren, maybe my great grandchildren might. You know, but racism is so deep, and it cuts so deep into our lives and our history and everything that goes. Like, it's too much.
it's such a big do you know what I mean? Like, it's something
huge.
so, yeah, it's huge. Like, you can talk about it for days, weeks and months. Like, I just feel like, I think it's sad that we're all 20, but we've all experienced more than one situation of racism. Do you know what I mean? Like, even like, I was 10, I went to America, and oh my god, there's a black girl in the shop. Like, do you know what I mean?
I was at work, McDonald's. This is an Irishman, yeah? Black monkey bitch. All over a fillet of fish. When these
And
times,
then when
you were on the same list.
when you get all ghetto on it
Don't
now.
go all holes then on them.
Yeah, but it's like, what do you
Did you?
expect? Like, I'm angry.
No, but it's not, oh, you're aggressive. That's one I love at work. I was being aggressive. Listen, darling, I was just telling you about yourself. I wasn't being aggressive.
You ever know when you're showing some form of passion to a subject? When
Yeah.
it's white people doing it, it's a passion. When it's white
Yeah.
people doing it, there's so much passion.
Yeah.
And it's like, what?
And that debating and
And you know what gets me on my nerves as well, yeah? You know, with this country, when it comes to like the royal family, and how like the media treat Meghan Markle, she's only half. Imagine she was fully black. But anyway, how they treat her while Prince Harry's uncle was out here touching little kids.
pedophile.
I mean, it's hard.
Someone do the maths because it's just not mathing up.
Like,
It's not.
but
It's just, this is what I'm saying. This is just something where we're tired.
Draining.
We're tired.
it's like, why at our age have we experienced something so disgusting? Like, we shouldn't have to deal with this stuff.
No.
And we, as black people, have given so much to the whites
I don't even
and
think,
this country.
I don't even think it's our generation. It's more the older generation. Do you know
You
what I
can't say it's not our generation.
Well, okay, it is a part, but it's like
their
it's not,
racism was overt, where ours is covert. People make sly comments to you at work, like you have attitude, or I didn't know your hair was real, or you know, do black people tan?
Just put sun cream on. I hate
Bruh.
that. 'Cause it's like,
yeah, it's just.
can I touch your hair?
Yeah, okay.
Fuck off.
Don't touch my
Are you wearing
hair.
a wig? Are you? No,
Boo.
not today anyway. But as I said, like racism is just it's a sticky topic, and it's sad. Do you know what I mean? And I do hope in the future things can actually progress and change.
But until then, I will happily knock out a racist white person. Have no period.
Anyways, that's all we've got to say. Thank you.
Racism. I guess if I start, I guess it makes sense to start a little bit on a personal level and then professionally, I suppose, afterwards. I have a kind of different experience, I suppose, to a lot of my family and many of my friends, in that a big part of my family are not, well, mixed race, if that isn't obvious, so that kind of comes with its own, and I'm fairly light skinned mixed race, so that comes with its own sort of nuance on experiences. And I think to clarify that, in many, if not always, there's a huge, in every way there's a huge privilege that comes with being a lighter skin in terms of the reaction I get from people. However, it kind of comes with its own flavour of, I think, racism and own flavour of discrimination. And I think sometimes it's a little more covert because you try to assimilate, or in my experience, I tried to assimilate when I was much younger. I used to have locks, I used to have cornrows, afro, and kind of, that was the way in which I was able to express myself most freely with who I was. But I think a lot of people didn't understand that. So maybe in there, I grew up in a fairly white part of the UK, and I think, you get a lot of comments about just your hair, just this and just that. If I compare that to certain things that some of my siblings or friends and family have had, which is much more about their skin colour and them being black, mine was really targeted about, your hair. And, one example, I went for a job, and the guy's like, you ain't going to cornrows, you're not getting a job here with hair like that. And I remember trying to get my hair cut in my town when I was little, and I was like, we don't cut off the hair. So it was always kind of targeted at my hair, and I think that was the way in which I then went on to hide, or try and hide in plain sight. So I after like quite a few years, I buzz cut my hair, and I thought, I'm assimilating, it's easier, I'm not going to get any shit from people. So that's where it most sort of comes from my expression. It's that, and other little comments, like, I remember I had a girlfriend in school who was white, and a mate of mine was like, doesn't she mind mixing, and little things like that. But and when I was at uni, some geezer be like, I bet you £5 your mum ain't actually black, because he couldn't believe that would be mixed. And at the time, you kind of laugh it off. You kind of you try and just like, okay. And I also felt like I didn't have a right to own my blackness, because in the eyes of some people, I wasn't really black, and mixed wasn't really a thing that people understood in the same sense, and therefore what they were saying couldn't possibly be racist. And then when it comes to on a professional level, I think, again, my experiences have not been the same as many others due to my my skin colour, I think. But on a broader level, I think what's become apparent is the imbalance in diversity at higher levels. And I think a lot of that can come down to the tools people have growing up. I think for me, you grow up with a family that's keep your head down, work hard, and a part of them is assimilating or trying to kind of fit into a mould that's perhaps not automatic for them. You do the same, and you see other people with different skills who grow up are like great at playing those career games, going to kind of have those tools to excel in a more kind of organic way. and can sometimes lead to where the imbalances happen.
During the pandemic, I actually read a book by Rennie Edo-Lodge called Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race. And I think that this is something that pretty much everybody wants to read. If you want to learn about racism, if you want to learn about the history of it, from back in the day up until now, and the future of it, then this is definitely a great book to read. I think that this was the type of book, as it says in some of the reviews, a book that was begging to be written. The title of it is strong. It's very strong. And how I actually found this was I went into a museum in Brixton. I went to a small exhibition, and it was, of course, about Black history. And this was the first book that, number one, was in my eyesight, and the title alone caught me off guard. And I thought, it's bold and it's brilliant. And straight away I wanted to read it, and I'm glad I did, because I've already learnt so much from slavery and institutionalized racism, from her perspective and other experiences that have happened to other people. This book pretty much challenges structural racism all throughout in a way that I think many people have been afraid to do. It pretty much discovers and discusses government policies and practices in organizations, and portrays exactly just how racial inequalities are institutionalized. Personally, I think this is one of the most or best well-written books that I've read on the topic so far in a very, very long time. It's open, it's honest, and I've actually read quite a number of reviews where white people have confirmed that they were racist and realized, you know, some of the mistakes that they had made over the years, and have confessed to learning and changing some of their behavioral patterns that they have learned. Which again is something that I think everybody can do. If you can learn hatred, you can unlearn it. As difficult as that may be, it's actually pretty simple. You can learn something and unlearn it. And I think it's just people that need to be open and take the time to learn and be disciplined and pretty much do that to make this world a better place. But, you know, with it being institutionalized, you see it all the time. You see it in film, you see it in TV. You see it in music, where Black people are constantly being seen as, or put in negative positions, or posed as the violent threat. Why? Because on a whole, we're not those people. You know, we're very loving and we have a lot of love to give, but we're always treated otherwise. And it's a shame and it's unfair. Personally, I mean, I believe that the people who put this hatred forward are also the people that need to remove it. I distinctively remember as a child constantly seeing examples of this. And luckily, I come from a background where I was taught pretty much straight away. As soon as I could walk and talk, I was taught, you know, where I come from, where I originate from, who I am. So I've always been sure of myself from a very young age, and luckily I have, because if I hadn't been, I reckon I would be sucked into that whole world of believing exactly how the world portrays us, to be these violent characters and to be these horrible people. And it's not the case, because we're brilliant, we're wonderful, we're intelligent, we're talented, and we deserve to be here in the world. We deserve to be here just like everybody else, and it's about time that the world recognizes that. And let's be honest, none of this is new. This entire topic, all experiences, all institutionalized racism, none of it is new.
It's just something that I feel has been constantly ignored because people didn't care and simply didn't want to have to deal with it. But yeah, I mean, we see it all the time, but we just need people to see it, learn it, recognize it, and come together and work together to make a change. And hopefully one day soon this world will be a better place to live in.
Okay, so racism. That's a topic that's been kind of thrown into the forefront of a lot of discussions recently, due to the Black Lives Matter protests and awareness campaigns and things like that. And it's very much still alive and very much still an important topic to discuss. So, since the resurfacing of Black Lives Matter, not that it ever went away, but you know, since the media has kind of evolved and started to shine a light on the issues of race, I, as a black person, black woman specifically, have been met with a lot of uncertainty, I want to say, from different people in my life from different walks of life. So some of them might be professionally or personally may know me. And a lot of the issues that we've been tackling as a black community, so inequality in the workplace, for instance, or things like, you know, comments that are made, for example, like, oh, your hair's different again, when a black woman changes her hair, specifically. A lot of people have come back to me and kind of been apologising and all that kind of stuff. And although, you know, I appreciate the apologies, what I really want people to strive to do is to educate themselves. So just really educate themselves. I've heard a lot of people come to be like, oh, but you know, Britain's not as racist. It isn't racist. You know, America's very racist. And I'm like, the British just are subtly racist in their ways sometimes, which is why it gets missed. But it is still very much around. It is still very much present in our British society. And unfortunately, until people are ready to have these discussions openly about how, you know, racism is a thing, it is a real thing, and how they may not know, but they are subconsciously contributing to that, it will keep being an issue. There's things from systematic racism, justice, is like racism in the justice system. So, you know, all these facts and these figures are all out there, and people are still burying their head in the sand, which I think is so disappointing. When you have such a vast knowledge base at your fingertips in the century that we are in. I haven't personally, in a workplace setting, I haven't come across racism. However, I've come across racism kind of in my day-to-day commute into work. So as you can see, I've got locks and at the end of some of my locks are quite, for me, spiritual items, so like shells, and I've got the yank and things like that, and it's also different colours. And I've physically had a woman, a Caucasian woman, step over to me on the train and put her hand in my hair to feel my my jewels, and kind of, you know how you do, you kind of edge away and they're like, oh, please don't touch my hair. And the response I was met with when I said that was, oh, but I just came back from Trinidad and, you know, I love the culture and and I had to kind of really be intentional with, you know, the way I handle that situation, because I didn't want to come across as, you know, the angry black woman. It's even disheartening that you have to think as a black person, if I voice certain things, that I'm going to come across as, you know, angry or confrontational or things like that, when it's basically setting boundaries, and people have a problem with the way in which we set our boundaries. So is racism a problem? Yeah. And it will continue to be a problem until we actually sit down and have a discussion about it, an open discussion about it. And yeah, it kind of needs to be a thing. Because it is a thing. There are people of different races, different colours. So yeah, and it's a very important topic that does need to be addressed. Not just, you know, I'm talking right now, it needed to be addressed centuries ago, but I think the generations now are just fed up, so we are ready to kind of have a discussion, to kind of make changes happen where and how we see fit. And yeah, we're ready. And I think a lot of black people in general were just kind of fed up of the inequality that it comes with as well. So yeah, that's kind of my views on racism, I guess, and my personal experiences, but also how I feel about the topic in general.
I feel like, can I say, racism, I feel like people of colour experience it very differently. For example, like Asians experience racism and differently the way black people experience racism. However, I feel like if I'm gonna relate it to, I can only relate it to myself, being a black person. I feel like it's something that doesn't get talked about enough. I feel like maybe after one or two headlines, then it's done. You know, for example, like, although George Floyd's killing was a massive, big impact, especially globally, after a while, then it goes quiet again. And let's be honest, George Floyd isn't the first person. I feel like if it's not recorded, especially, or even if it does get recorded, a snippet, it's posted on Instagram, then it's forgotten about 2 days later. So seeing things, especially this year, back to back, of police not being charged, social media, it gets highlighted a lot now, so it's very in our faces, we can see it. I just, you know, it's something where I feel like it's hard to see mentally, because you try, obviously you put yourself in that person's shoes. I mean, I haven't experienced it bad where someone's said something racist to my face, but when I see it on camera and I put myself in that person's shoes, you know, you can only experience rage. It's not something where you just sit there and like, oh, next. So yeah, I think even though it doesn't impact me like explicitly, as in someone's not said something to my face, it's all around us, and you can't help but think that, or have some kind of emotion or some kind of frustration or some kind of anger that is the same thing again and again and again. Like, and I'm sure, especially like when you see marches of people protesting about 40 years ago, you're just kind of like, damn, we've come 360, and when is the change gonna happen? And so you kind of like, is there hope, like, for the future, in 10, 15, 100 years, the next generations to come? You just kind of think that, where's the light at the end of the tunnel that the ancestors were marching for and that got put through hell? So I'm not going to say we're experiencing the exact same segregation as they did, but it's just in a different form. And I'd say I hope that 2020 has brought a light to people who are not black, or who are not black, who can, you know, put themselves in our shoes as well, that, you know, we are human. We, just because of the colour of our skin doesn't mean we should get treated badly. I just, you know, I think injustice shouldn't happen just because of the colour of someone's skin. We have the same eyes, not same eyes, but we all have eyes. We have a brain, nose, mouth, you know. It's just the colour of our skin is different. You know, we should get treated just as fairly and as, just as fairly as everyone else.
I think this year has been very prevailing when it comes to racism. I think the death of George Floyd really acted as a catalyst for these kind of discussions to be had, and essentially given a voice to the Black Lives Matter movement. When black people say we just want equality and enough is enough, we are still made to look like the bad guys. People say they are doing too much, or it's not Black Lives Matters, it should be all life matters, or that looting and rioting won't solve anything. People of colour have been oppressed for 400 years, and I think people got so caught up in the corona pandemic, they failed to realise that we're already battling another disease, racism, which is taking away people's lives. Whilst there has been a lot of negativity around the way this movement has progressed and the way it's done, there has also been a huge amount of support, resulting in a small amount of progression and small amounts of change. But it's still not enough, not yet. A lot of people are probably tired of hearing about how Black Lives Matters. I can tell you for myself, I am tired as well. I'm tired of having to justify myself and explain to people the bigger picture. I'm tired of falling out with family because they just don't get it. I'm tired of constantly being made to feel like fighting for my life and for future generations is causing more harm than good. But more importantly, I'm tired of people thinking that wanting to be equal is too much of an ask. When people ask me if I've ever experienced racism, I used to say no, because no one's ever called me the N-word to cause me harm. But looking back, I have experienced racism. At school, someone did call me the N-word, and at the time I thought it was a joke, but looking back, it's no joke. I have been followed around supermarkets many of times by security who think I'm going to steal. Steal what? What is there to steal? The time that stands out for me is when I was walking back home from my car. There was a lady behind me, and I had to turn around to go back to my car as I had forgotten something in it. The woman started running for her life, like literally just running. And I was like, wow. I often question myself and think, had I been a white male, would she had run from me? Or maybe the issue was that I was a man that she wasn't comfortable with. I mean, first of all, I was never going to attack her, but it made me quite sad to think that she's seen a young black male and her initial instinct is to run. I will always use my voice for things I believe in, this being one of them. Even if people are sick of hearing about it, I will continue to talk and express myself the best way I can. The message that I really want to put across is that the statement Black Lives Matter is not a flexible statement. When you're fighting for black lives, make sure you know you're fighting for black women's lives, you're fighting for black gay lives, and you're fighting for black transgender lives. Your support is irrelevant if you can't do this or don't agree. We, as people of colour, know how it's like to be discriminated against for something we have no control over. Whether we have experienced it or not, we are subject to it. It simply does not make sense to say Black Lives Matter, but then project the same hate onto another group of people, for this example, the LGBT community, because it's just not something you agree with. A lot of conversation still needs to be had around this, because the fact is, black women are still being disrespected and disregarded in this movement, and more so, black trans women. I always imply that people should educate themselves, and many get defensive as if it's a bad thing when it's not. We can all educate ourselves at any stage in our lives, whether it affects us or not. As a gay man, I had to educate myself on what it means to be a gay man in society, but also what it means to be a black gay man in not just society, but within the gay community itself. I chose to educate myself on the inequality of women so that I can be there for my mum, for my sister, for my cousin, from the other female family members in my life. I choose to educate myself on what it means to be transgender so that I'm aware of the struggles they face. I'm neither transgender nor a woman, and yet education plays a massive part in my day-to-day life. You don't have to be black or have been racially abused to know right from wrong. Fighting racism isn't a white versus black issue. It's everyone versus racism. It is hard to stay optimistic, but I am hopeful that one day the colour of our skin won't be used as a weapon against us. But I'm also hopeful that I'd never have to hear my son or daughter's name in the same context that we've heard. George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, Tamir Rice, and so many more human beings who have lost their lives out of hatred.
I hold the belief in regards to racism that we have done better in the past, and therefore we can do right now, we hold the means to do better than the last time we did better. So when was the last time we did better, and what can we learn from it? I can pinpoint the last time we did better in the fight against racially biased police brutality in 1997-1998 in France. The Prime Minister of the time reformed the national police by installing a system of community-led policing. That worked by hiring police locally within a neighborhood to operate locally within its own neighborhood in cooperation with citizens, local members of the community. This had the goal to appease and prevent tensions by building the bridge, building trust between those two entities of society. This was a very, progressive reform, and I believe it was only allowed to happen because at the same time, in 1998, we won the World Cup. France won the World Cup, and that brought a huge, massive wave of popular anti-racism. People were just chanting against racism. We had this idea that we had succeeded as a team of 11 mixed-race men, white, African, Caribbean, and Arab. So we had proven that we can work together. So once we had done that, it was going to be the way we operate from then on. Obviously, years have passed, and there was a moment, I think I have enough data to declare there was a moment, but also the moment has come and gone. So what happened? In 2003, Nicolas Sarkozy, who was only an ambitious just minister at the time, declared that the police did not exist to organize football matches within neighborhoods, but to arrest criminals. That was a big punchline, and he followed it up by reinstalling a system of centralized police, which is what we have now still, and what we have in the UK as well. This had the effect it was going to have. 2 years later, in 2005, there was a massive scandal because two young boys, 15 and 17, were chased by the police. They hid in an electrical factory and they died there. There were riots, massive outrage against that, and I kind of feel like this is the world we've been living in for 15 years now. Nothing has changed. Scandals come and go. It's just violence upon violence, and there's no justice, no reforms. So we know when we lost political support for the cause. We can blame the government, but we also have a collective responsibility because we have had the opportunity to right this wrong and we didn't take it. In the presidential race in 2017, several candidates, several parties reintroduced the community-led policing system in their programs. However, we, leftists, chose to elect a man for the second round who did not include this in his program. How do we justify that if we care? I don't know. I can only justify it by saying that we never stop caring. It's for sure. We never stop caring because we never stop being outraged. However, we have stopped thinking smartly about a solution to the issue. We need a popular wave of yearning for unity. We've lost this. Everyone knows that politics are basically polarized right now. Is extreme left or extreme right. People don't come together in the middle. So I think I have an idea of how, regarding this particular issue, we could start to come together and maybe spark a flame of collective enthusiasm for the cause. If we went to the police right now and we told them, listen, reforming your job will not only help us, it will also help reduce suicides within your ranks, which is a massive issue within their job, then I believe we could entice them to fight with us. It needs to be cooperation rather than opposition. So I blame us for choosing the wrong programs, for choosing good marketing rather than substantial rhetoric. And I believe that if we start to pay attention and to truly try to relate to each other, every one of us, then there is still hope. And I don't believe it's a fool's hope that I hold. I believe that we have ground to believe that there is the means for unity and harmony. We will beat this thing that's racism. We will. We just will. We just have to try hard enough, smart enough, and kind enough. Love is the answer to all.
Growing up, I had parents who educated me about race, about different cultures, about different religions, due to my own mixed background. And I remember from a young age witnessing racism towards within my own community, towards my friends, on social media, to strangers. And I remember, even it still makes me feel the same way even when I was young. And I tend to reflect a lot as an adult on what I witnessed, and that could be within school, from students and teachers. I remember there being a time where I trusted, teachers, and I thought they were my role models, and they would, and I was naive to think that because anyone can be racist, obviously, but at a young age you don't think like that. And I feel like that's a theme, throughout my life. Like, I've always seen that, where my black friends would get into trouble and I wouldn't, and racism, clearly. For the last few years, I've worked in various care and community jobs, jobs where you would expect individuals to have a good educated understanding of equality and diversity. Well, you would think, obviously, working with such a diverse group of people. Well, I've witnessed, I can't even describe, a lot of racism that's from professionals and clients who were being supported. And there were times where clients would use really racist language about the other colleagues. Again, I would confront them about it, saying it's not appropriate to say that, it's disgusting, it's racist. And I would report it every single time to my management. They would act shocked. They'll try and excuse these clients because of their age, their generation, or apparently, they've not that's why they're racist. And they would say that they're going to discuss it further with the clients, and they never did. Again, I would report it, and literally nothing was done. And I've always had jobs like that. So usually due to management, I've left because there's been, an incident where someone's been racist, I've been discriminated against myself, and they've not done anything. Or literally there's no support for colleagues who go through this. I feel that sometimes racist people feel comfortable to be racist around white people, especially. And for example, when, like, obviously I'm white, but I'm mixed, like I'm half Turkish, and I don't know whether that's kind of that's why I've got a really, like, my parents have always raised me, I'm just not racist basically. And I remember I've done a social work degree, and again, being naive, thinking, oh, they're very educated, that we work with a lot of diverse people, they wouldn't be racist. And I remember on my first year placement, I was with my colleagues, and one of them was discussing an FGM, female genital mutilation case, and another lady in the office, another social worker, said, is she Somalian? Is this young girl Somalian? In which the woman said, yeah. And this lady turned around and said, well, yeah, I expected that. That's all. They all do that. And again, like, mind blown, like how casual it's casual racism. I often hear, I have black friends, so I'm not racist, which is ridiculous. What are you actually doing to support Black lives? You know, you need to educate yourself, you need to listen, you need to learn and advocate, you need to have deep, in-depth conversations with your black friends to find out how to support them, and think about long-term support, such as, you know, following black influencers, buying from black-owned companies, signing petitions, protesting, just educating other people. I feel like we need to make sure we have those conversations and not be afraid, and I do that with my friends. You know, I make sure I'm supporting them mentally, and especially at a time like this, especially during all this crazy stuff that's going on in America, the racist institutions which are just ruining lives and not caring about black lives.
Racism. Wow. That is a big boy question. As you can imagine, being a black man in London, I have definitely dealt with many forms of racism, whether that be overt racism or covert racism. I've obviously grown up, I've dealt with run-ins with the National Front, dealt with run-ins with the police, all because of the colour of my skin. And in a mad way, I would say racism unfortunately defines you. It makes you tough. You get me? You have to be tough in this world. You have to be tough. You have to somehow become equipped to injustice. You have to, in a way, kind of come to terms with the fact that you won't be treated the same as someone else, literally just because of the colour of your skin, which is infuriating, and to be fair, makes a lot of people mad, and a lot of people end up being angry for the rest of their lives because of that type of stuff. And it's kind of hard to channel that energy into something positive. Like, growing up, you're always told you need to work 10 times harder than the next man just because of that. You feel me? So they have no choice but to bring you food. They can't deny it. So it's difficult. It is difficult. I know a lot of people, it's affected their mental health. Physically, it's affected them. It's turned them into monsters. Real talk. It's turned them into savages because, you know, when you live in a world of such injustice, they just think, fuck it. But with that being said, this is going to sound a bit crazy to me, but I kind of feel like racism will never exist. I kind of feel like, just in general, people are just prone to dividing each other, whether that's class, whether that's sex, whether that's creed, whatever it is. People are just designed to create class systems where some people are treated better than other people. And unfortunately, racism, I feel like, will exist forever, but maybe in a different form. I don't know, man. It's such a difficult one when you talk about race and racism, because it's so personal and so different to so many different people. But yeah, in my career, I've definitely seen that I've had to work 10 times harder. I've had to essentially kick down doors, break necks just to get what I deserve, which to me is a mad thing, but it's life. And it's a shame that I'm saying that's life, because it shouldn't be like that. You understand me? It shouldn't be a situation where it's like, that's life. And obviously, we're in 2020, the world has been on fire, but we've seen a lot of positive changes. And I kind of feel like, unfortunately, people seeing a black man slowly die on screen for however many minutes that was has made them open their eyes. It's mad, because after all these years, people are slowly starting to open their eyes to what we've been dealing with. You get me? Like, it's not right for a 16-year-old, 15-year-old to be on their way to school and constantly stopped and searched. It's not right that, bruh, we need to work just so hard just to be equal. So many things aren't right. But, bruh, I'm just freestyling off the top of my head. When it comes to this racism thing, man, so many thoughts, but that's me for now.
Okay, so the topic of conversation is racism. Right, okay. Well, where do we start? Racism is around everywhere. It's been around, it's still around, and I'm sure it's still going to be around way back over there, you know? Nothing that's going to go away anytime soon, because that's just, you know, the way it is, unfortunately, in life. I've never had someone actually throw racist slurs at me, like call me a nigger or tell me to go back to my country or something like that. I've never specifically had that, but where I used to hang around with a lot of white friends, because obviously I grew up in Hertfordshire. Hertfordshire is mainly a white area, especially like the schools and stuff. So obviously I had a lot of white friends at school. They'd be like, oh, you're like the whitest black person I've ever met, like you're like an Oreo, like a coconut. And I'm like, you're not really black. And I'm like, I look at myself and I'm like, baby, what do we call this then? Like, I was like, well, I am black, I just don't speak like a typical black person, which is like a Londoner. And that never really sort of affected me. Like, I never really like, oh cool, like yeah, okay. But like now I grow up more and I see a lot, I'm like, okay, that was like a little dig, like and even with a lot of with white friends, obviously I'd be the only black person in the group, and it'd be like, oh, you know, we have our black card, because I was their friend. And I'm like, again, at the time I didn't think anything of it because I was younger, like I didn't really know much. But now I look at it, I'm like, I'm not no one's black card. I'm not here for you. I'm not a friend for you to be like, oh, you know, it's fine, I can say this, I can say that, I can cuss on it, you know, because, oh, my friend's black. No, baby, that's not how it works. So it's fine. I'm not cool with those people anymore. Even with the people that I chill with now, like say for example the white friends I did have when Black Lives Matter came into play, and I saw that they weren't really supporting it, knowing that I'm a black friend of theirs, and yeah, I didn't really like the vibe, so cut them off completely. But yeah, wherever you go, racism is always there. Work, school, outside of, like, you know, daily activities, like, it's always gonna be there whether we like it or not. And it's not for us to change, it's the other side, the white people, to sort of be like, okay, you know what, this is a thing that needs to just cut it out. It's been and done. There's no need to be dragging it on this long. Do you understand? It's been centuries, so we don't, just let it go. And it's just it's just sad to see all this news and all this stuff about black people dying by white people, and it's like, oh, but all lives matter. And then you see a white person who commits a crime, but you don't hear anyone screaming all lives matter when they get shot, you know? It's just all one-sided. And personally, I don't like to talk too much on racism because, like, yes, I know it's there, and yes, I should be an advocate for it, but I'm so sick and tired of having to, you know, voice why our lives matter. I'm sick and tired of it. We shouldn't have to give reason as to why our lives matter. They should matter regardless. You know, the only thing that's different from us is the colour of our skin. And if anything, it's better. But that's it. Apart from that, your attributes, your personality, could be exactly the same as to someone of the opposite colour. But you're deemed as unsafe, scary because of the colour of your skin. And that's just a stereotype, and it just sucks. So yeah, that's all I've got to say on that one.
So my kind of experiences with racism, to be fair, I will say that I think I've been pretty lucky, kind of growing up where I have, like where I've grown up in Twickenham. I mean, it is a predominantly white area, I would say that, but it's also very liberal, and like it's become a lot more like, I mean, I've lived here like since we were like 7. I'd say it's definitely become more and more multicultural now, and I guess kind of stuff that I've experienced myself, like I said, I've been lucky. I've never had like really, I mean, I've had experiences but nothing really bad, like nothing that, like, you know, what my parents sort of experienced when they first came here. I've had more like, so I've had some weird encounters, and then it's more like people making ignorant comments, especially when I was like doing bar work and stuff like that. I remember, you know, you'd have people just kind of being like, oh well, you're not from here because you have nice dark skin and stuff like that. And then also, I guess, you know, I'm from Indian heritage. People have a lot of stereotypes about Indian families and Indian people. Like, for example, I remember just some random guy in the street started talking to me, and he was like, just asking weird questions, and he was like, do you have a boyfriend? And I was like, yes. And he was like, oh, well, do your parents allow that? Like, usually Indian parents don't allow that kind of thing. And I was like, well, mine do. Like, everyone kind of has this stereotype, I guess, that Indian parents are really strict and traditional and don't let their kids do a lot of stuff. But I mean, my family isn't really like that, so I guess people kind of have preconceptions of what your family's like, and also people being like, oh, do you have to get an arranged marriage and stuff like that? Like, no, I don't actually. So I guess, and I mean, it is ignorant, like kind of going around just asking people stuff like that, but I guess it's kind of preconception that people you don't really know loads about other cultures will just kind of ask stuff like that. And then general like weird experiences I've had. I remember I was talking to someone about colonization one time. Just, I don't even know how it came up in subject, but it just came up like that. And he was like, he stopped me in the middle of talking about it. Was like, yeah, I'm so sorry about that, by the way. Like, I know it was my people who did that to your people. I'm really sorry about that. And it was just really weird and awkward. Like, I didn't really know how to respond to that. It was kind of, you could kind of tell that those kind of people don't know how to talk to people of different races, maybe. And then one like kind of full-on experience I had was I was at a party of, I can't really say the name, I was at a party, like someone's family party, and I was the only non-white person there, but I wouldn't normally, I'd never really notice something like that. I just kind of, you know, I don't never really find that I walk into a room and be like, oh shit, I'm the only brown person here. But in this instance, I definitely did kind of notice that. And one of the people at the party, not a very nice man, but kind of came up to me and was like, oh, where are you from, but he just kept asking, like, I mean, he was very drunk as well, not that it's an excuse, but just kept being like, where are you from, where are you from, where are you from? Then started kind of coming up to me and making up names of countries and asking if I was from like these made up countries. So I mean, it's just ridiculous. And I mean, so that kind of experience, that's like, and I guess I didn't really notice, also I was kind of nervous because it was like people I didn't really know that well, and then looking back on that, that's kind of like, really, like, he just targeted me because I was the only like non-white person like making up names of countries. It's just crazy.
Hi guys, I'm here to talk about a topic today that's very much apparent and aware in today's society, and that is racism. Sadly, it's everywhere. It's in the public eye, it's in the workplace, it's amongst friends and families, and even within a relationship. My main topic today is relationships and dealing with racism. Now, I've had a few relationships outside of my own race, which has always raised concerns when it came to my boyfriends at the time, their family members, especially the parents. Now, most parents anyway, want to see their kids succeed and have a bright future and want what's best for them. But when you're dealing with an outside race, most parents and grandparents are still stuck in that old mentality way of thinking of, you know, my daughter and my son needs to see, date, or marry someone that's the same race as themselves. In today's generation, there's so many different races and cultures being explored. I honestly see nothing wrong with that. I think it's great to learn and teach, you know, different languages, trying traditional home-cooked dishes, you know, listening to different music and whatnot. Unfortunately, my parents, you know, they never always had it easy because they're actually two different races, and you know, two people who want to be in love and be happy. Other family members didn't agree with it, they didn't like it and saw it as a disgrace. Of course they came around, but it took time, it took years for them to sort of accept it. For me, I struggled with my past relationship just because, you know, I was treated differently, I was spoken to differently, I was never invited to certain family functions, just in case the extended family was there, because they would see it as bringing shame to the family name. This became an issue with my relationships just because it made one feel type of way. Arguments were caused because of it. I didn't feel comfortable going to theirs. I just didn't feel welcome. My family, my parents, they're so much more modern, and with the times, they always made my boyfriends at the time feel as part of one of the family, you know. Another concern of mine was, what if I wanted to have kids? Will my children feel the same way I felt? Will they ask questions like, why does one set of grandparents love and adore them and the other doesn't want to, you know them or acknowledge them? It's very disheartening. To get through this type of situation, you and your other half will have to have an understanding, and if you both love each other and want a future, then you have to stay strong and hold each other down, you know. Your family will eventually come around, or a few may be distant, but what's more important than your happiness? Please don't let racism have an impact or any negative say when it comes to you and your true love. You know, love is free. So you should have a choice to love who and whatever race they are. And that's my view on racism within a relationship.